Move on to the first panel for the day. The topic that we'll be focusing on is rise of skill-based gaming. The moderator for this session is Mr. Vishal Chinchankar, Chief Digital Officer of Madison Media. Joining him will be Mr. Amit Purohit, founder Fantasy Akhada, Mr. Gaurav Agarwal, co-founder Gamezop, Mr. Varun Ganjoo, co-founder and marketing director Baazi Games, Mr. Varun Mahna, CEO and founder PokerDangal, Mr. Vaibhav Odhekar, co-founder and CEO of Pokkt, and Mr. Yash Pariani, CEO and founder Indian Gaming League. Mr. Chinchankar, over to you.
Thank you, Asaf, and hello and a very warm welcome for this exciting panel discussion today. And our topic is rise of skill gaming. My name is Vishal Chinchankar. I am the Chief Digital Officer of Madison Media. Been into this marketing space and the digital ecosystem for more than about a couple of decades. You know, we've got a fantastic topic today, gaming. Gaming has an universal recreational appeal for people across all ages, socioeconomic groups. Skill gaming industry has witnessed a paradigm shift with evolution of 4G over last few years. It is all set to become one of the major driving forces of digital expansion. Given the high growth potential of the gaming industry in India, many of these foreign entities are also exploring possibilities to set up their operations in India. Over the last few years, it's really led a remarkable growth in revenue figures of the industry. Now, if I just pick upon just the cards gaming industry, and I'm meaning to refer to rummy and poker and all of that, it's expected to touch about 4,500 crores by end of this year. I mean, that's amazing, right? I mean, that's the kind of growth this industry is just talking about. And I'm not even talking about the fantasy games or any other skill games. And we've also already seen some gaming unicorns like Dream 11 already, listed as a unicorn. And I hope that our panelists also become unicorns, in this particular industry. And before I move on to the questions, I'd like to just quickly do a round of an introduction to our esteemed panel. Today we have Varun Ganjoo, co-founder and marketing director of Baazi Games. Varun is an engineer by qualification and has always been with poker when the opportunity came up to the fore to start the poker revolution. He's joined hands with former classmates at college and started this business. While Varun is a creative wizard who designs out-of-box campaign for brands, when he's not working, he can also be found looking for food or nearby poker tables, connecting with his passion. Welcome, Varun. We also have Yash Pariani, CEO and co-founder of Indian Gaming League, IGL. Yash founded IGL in 2016 to organize large-scale offline tournaments. And in September 2019, he decided to take it all online to pave the way of the digital ecosystem for the gamers. He's also been successfully co-founding some 4 different tech startups, and he intends to revolutionize the gaming industry for paving a career path for gamers across India. Our third panelist today is Amit Purohit, founder of Fantasy Akhada. Fantasy Akhada is a young and a dynamic organization in fantasy sports. In short span of 8 months and after delighted over 1 lakh customers on the platform, Fantasy Akhada is now ready to take the next phase of growth in the Indian rapid evolving fantasy sports industry. We also have Varun Mahna, founder and CEO of PokerDangal. Varun is a seasoned professional with dynamic career. Varun has been the country HR lead sales at Star Sports. He was a part of team which has launched Hotstar. Prior to that, he was in the corporate world with a career as a consultant in Ernst & Young risk advisory practice. Pardon me, but there's a long list. We've got some 6 panelists today. We've got Gaurav Agarwal, co-founder of Gamezop. Now, Gamezop is got a very, very unique sort of a model. He sort of gets all the gamers and he partners with every distribution channel like a newspaper website. And his revenue model is basically from the advertising. So that's fairly different and fairly unique, and he's been pretty profitable from last 3 years. So it's going to be very very interesting to really hear how he's been coping up just purely from an advertising perspective in the gaming industry. And similar to this profile, we have Vaibhav Odhekar, co-founder and CEO of Pokkt. Pokkt is a ad tech firm, and Vaibhav's been 15 years of experience in banking, payment solutions, entertainment. He was a founding member at Zapak with a strong understanding of operation in ad tech domain. Today, Pokkt is one of the finest growing ad tech organizations in Asia and Middle East, and now it's a part of AnyMind Group. So, most welcome to all my dear panelists, and let's go with this. So let's try and get some more visibility from our panelists in the gaming landscape today about what have been their marketing strategies, what has been their road to profitability, and a lot more interesting questions. So here we go. I think let me, before wasting any more time, let me just try and shoot some more questions. And I'd like Varun, Ganjoo, if you can just jump up to this one. Indian gaming industry is at a cusp of massive explosion. We all know that, especially skill games, and it's moving at the speed of light. And if I'm not too wrong, what according to you is the road ahead as an industry pioneer building large gaming businesses in India? Where do you see this industry moving by, say, 2022? I mean, would love to hear your perspective on this, Varun.
Sure. First of all, a very good evening to everyone, and thanks, Adgali, for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here. Coming to your question, Vishal, I think, like you correctly mentioned, we've seen a boom in this skill gaming industry already. But the interesting thing to note is that we're just we feel we are at the scratch of the mountain, right? There's a lot more to cover. I see it from two angles, right? One is the already increasing internet penetration in the country, right? Which is, penetrating into your tier 2, tier 3 towns and like crazy, right? So the numbers definitely will help this industry to grow and penetrate in that segment. The second angle to look at this is at the already existing pool, right? So the way we look at it is that data shows that in India, the sports consumption is massive, right? There are about close to 700 million consumers of sports in India already, right? And the skill gaming industry would probably be still at 1/4 of it. So there's a lot more to cover in that sense, right? One other important aspect remains to be seen here is the regulatory framework for this, which is also showing very positive signs. As you must have noticed that very recently, Niti Aayog, which is the government think tank, headed by the PM himself, they came up with a proposal to centrally regulate the fantasy gaming industry to begin with, right? And we see it in a very positive light and feel that this is just the start of it, and eventually all the other games will also come into this gambit and will be centrally regulated. Not that it's not regulated now. All of the top companies are self-regulated at the moment, but then if a central regulation comes into place, it will open up a lot more avenues for everyone in the space. And the way we see it, I mean, the fantasy industry, like you mentioned, I mean, we've seen an annual growth rate of about 200% already. For us, I mean, personally talking about Baazi, which is our fantasy vertical at Baazi Games, we saw 100% month-on-month growth in the last few months during IPL, and added a base of 2 million users just during those 50 days. Right. So overall, if all these things, cumulatively move ahead, I think that by 2022, we could very well touch $4-5 billion in revenue.
Wow, that's a whopping number. Okay, I'm gonna invite Varun, Mahna, if you can jump me and give me your perspective as well.
Hi everyone. Good evening, and good to be a part of the panel. There are a lot of known faces, so my virtual greetings to everyone. I couldn't agree more with Varun. Definitely, the sector, the skill gaming sector in India, online skill gaming sector, is less than a decade old. So we have to first understand that we are a part of a very young sector, and on top of that, digital economy, the way it has been growing since the last 4 5 years, it brings in a new horizon and a new vertical for the entire gaming section. So India, by historically, we are a country which loves gaming. We love our sports, and in that respect, we love our skill-based card games as well. So games like Rummy, there is a game like Seep or a game like Code Piece. They're all very popular in households, but they are now becoming more and more commercially available to the consumers. I personally believe that right now we are in a transition phase. We are in a phase where it was an earlier called taboo area to a skill-based area. So we have bridged the gap, and there is still some more efforts which operators like us need to put in to remove that taboo completely and to educate the users about the skill involved in a game like poker or a rummy game, because they are actually games which challenge your intellectual, which challenge your strategy, which challenge your analytical abilities. And once we are able to reach out to the masses and tell them that, hey, this is a game of skill and this is not gambling, this is not anything related to luck predominantly, then we will be able to see a mass explosion of users coming onto this platform. The reason why fantasy sports has seen such a big, huge leap in terms of users and people accepting it is owed to the fact that they've been advertising on mass media for the last 4 5 years. So users have become comfortable with the idea, with the preparation which is required to play a game of fantasy sports. Similar thing needs to happen for poker and rummy. It is already actually happening. If you see, a lot of big brands have got A-list celebrities endorsing their products, educating the masses that, hey, this is how you play the game, this is a skill level you need, and hence this is the kind of output you can gain from it. So it is all a question about A, educating the masses, B, the ecosystem which is around us is right now mature enough to handle the growth as well. So we've got a good payment solutions ecosystem in India. We've got a good digital penetration, smartphone penetration. So all the tick marks which I look at in terms of the how do I say uh, the enablers for the industry, they are all right now very positive, very strong. And I feel that in the next 2 years, we're going to see a massive boom for this sector. Already, if I see IPL or if I see India versus Australia on TV, I see a lot of advertisement being pushed in by these fantasy operators or skill-based gaming operators. And that is a trend which will continue. I feel in the next 2 years, we will be where e-commerce was, say, 15 years back. So there would be a huge boost in this sector for sure, is how I'm looking at the sector right now.
Thank you, Varun. I think that is a better perspective, very good perspective. Amit Purohit, would you agree with both the Varuns?
Yes, first of all, thank you so much to invite for inviting me to this panel, and I completely agree, Vishal. Both the Varuns have clearly pointed out how the industry has been booming, and we heard initially, there is still a lot of headroom that is available in this industry. So, if you look at Star Sports numbers, which they quote when we talk about the sports viewership, it's close to 800 million when we look at how TV plus digital, or in general how the IPL viewership pans out, right? And if we were to look at the numbers that that fantasy gaming talks about, they still say that we have close to around 10 crore users on our platform. So if we were to just look at the low hanging fruits itself, there is still a lot of headroom. And then of course this churn keeps happening. You start getting new and more and more users who are going to experiment fantasy gaming in general. That is what I can talk about, at least because of my experience with first Star Sports and now with Fantasy Akhada. So my belief also is very much aligned with how both the Varuns spoke. My view is that when we moved from a 900 crore revenue industry to 2,740 crores this year, I just feel that we are just still at the tip of the iceberg. And there are there are things which people are doing to enable these people who are not playing fantasy sports right now to start experiencing it. So you will see various formats of fantasy gaming that are coming up. It's not restricted to making a team of 11. There are options where people play in the second innings. There are options where people pick only batsmen and bowlers. There are options where people are playing some long form platform fantasy sport content as well. So there are a lot of innovations that are happening, and I just feel that it's going to get bigger and better with over the next 2 years.
Thank you, Amit. I think well said, well wrapped up, and the jury's out. I think clearly what comes out is it's still a tip of an iceberg, and we still have a huge headroom to play around with. So on that note, I'm going to move on to my next question, and I'd like to invite Gaurav Agarwal, if you can jump in and look at this. During COVID, what happened is what I call classically was a lockdown gaming, right? We saw a massive usage, upswing in new users, uh, and how's been your experience during this lockdown? I'm sure you have so much of gaming content, some casual gaming content, and you provide it to a lot more partners. There has been an upswing. What's been your experience from an advertising come content consumption of gaming point of view?
Right, right. Thanks, Vishal. I think that's a very, very pertinent question. And I think one of the things that we noticed was during lockdown, when a lot of industries, a lot of sectors, even within the digital domain, had taken a massive hit, say the travel industry, or say cab aggregators, or initially even the e-commerce players when delivery was restricted and so on. All the players turned to gaming, and everybody wanted to have some kind of I wouldn't say gamification is a loosely used term. Gamification could be anything like giving coins to your users within your platform, but we work with a lot of e-commerce players, we work with a lot of social commerce players, we work with a lot of community driven apps like ShareChat, etc. Everybody wanted to have a gaming section within their product for hyper casual games, right? And these are HTML5 games usually, which you don't have to separately install. If you, for example, even today, if you go to Amazon or you go to hindustantimes.com or you go to say Misho or Mintra or wherever, you'll see a gaming section which Gamezop powers. And this is something that we saw a massive boost in, especially during the lockdown time frame. When people were at home, they were playing games and so on and so forth. Now, the good part has been that because we are almost towards the end of the unlock period also, and when everything is now opened up, at least for mentally for all of us, things have opened up. We have seen that the firms that took our games, that embedded our games onto their platforms to create an in-app gaming experience for the users, all of those guys have continued to keep our games intact, right? Because if a non-gaming product introduces games, those of their users who enjoy gaming, those of their casual gamers who discover that section, the engagement for them increases by up to 40%, right? So it is funny to think of Hindustan Times adding games, or MX Player adding games, or Sony Live adding games, but you'd find our games in all of these places. And it's crazy to see that so many of these platforms now have gaming as a dedicated section. Like the positioning has improved from it being a side feature to now it has become a main feature within their products. And I'm glad that Gamezop is one of the players that's contributing towards this.
Thank you. I think that was a well said answer, Gaurav. I'm going to ask Vaibhav. Vaibhav, you lead one of the largest gaming ad tech company in the country. And during this COVID, I'm sure, you would have seen a massive spike. So give us your perspective of what really happened. I mean, was this just spike more than what you saw growth in the whole last year? What was the expectations from brand? Were the brands really consuming this sort of engagement of the consumers with this gaming as a content category?
Sure, Vishal. And yeah, good evening to everyone. Coming to your specific question, yes, see, we all saw a huge, a rise in the consumption during the lockdown. And, at Pokkt, we see almost, if I will not say 100, but at least 90% of the gaming audiences flowing through our platform. To give us a slight sense, our numbers have been around 250 to 270 million monthly unique users. Now, that has been very stable in the last 4 months. It obviously rose up, so I would say it sort of crossed the threshold, and it hasn't seen a dip. So what that helps is from a marketeer's point of view, back say 2 years back also, gaming used to be a niche. It used to be looked at as one certain set. I think the niche has really grown to be mainline. uh, Obviously digital has always been mobile in India, being mobile first. Gaming almost, so if you take some of these numbers, we are already touching close to 300 million users, and these are all pure smartphone users. We are not even talking the semi smartphone or some of these, which will add up another different layer. Also from a context, because we are talking slightly skill based, where advertising is not the mainstream, but a gamer is still a gamer. He may be using casual content at certain space, to hardcore, or to skill and money based, so, or real money. But I think when we take a brand marketeer's perspective, uh, when when such a large audience is present, the and we've correspondingly seen spends really grow up. So I won't say it's fortunate that this happened, but we've been doing all-time high revenues for the last 6 months. So the spends across, now these could be all categories, large conventional advertisers to even small localized regional advertisers. So I think two very nice things just for the whole people. One, acceptance of large number of users to gaming, and similarly brands embracing it not as a niche but across as a mainline spend medium. I think that's really good for the industry, and it just seems to be growing and not tapering also.
So congratulations, that's a good news. I see Pocket really growing up. Congratulations to you.
Thanks.
Let me just move on to my next question. While we've all got a perspective of what's the headroom, how it's been really growing, and how is really COVID really helped these numbers stack up, and it's like amazing to hear these sort of numbers of 300 and 400 million. But a fundamental question that I'm going to now shoot to both the Varuns again, and very interesting angle is what I want to really understand from both you guys is, I've been given to understand there are close to about 300 gaming startups, and it's just mushrooming. Everyone's really getting into the space, keeping in mind that it's a very, very hot sort of an industry, and especially the skill gaming landscape, if I had to pinpoint at. With such huge fragmentation, how do you really differentiate your product, and how does it really impact on your revenue? I'd request you, Varun, Ganjoo, if you can just jump in first and just give us a perspective of your differentiation of products, and what's that stickiness that you bring in.
Yeah. So I think it's indeed a very competitive space, right? But the way we see it is that, since the pool is very large, uh, if everyone is working with the right strategy, and moving forward to grow the industry, to grow that pie, it's all good, right? It's everyone can move forward with that. Of course, after a few years, when once the industry matures and we see the businesses grow, it will be a game of the slick few, and those limited players will not just be the ones with the biggest pockets, but with the great products, right? So product, we feel, is the absolute key here, in especially in this industry, right? We always tell our tech teams that, you guys, the product is our engine, right? The however strong we wish to accelerate with, let's say, heavy price pools or lucrative offerings, but till the time that engine doesn't support it, everything is going to fall apart, right? And uh, to be honest, if you see, there are a lot of examples out there, say something like Zynga games, Zynga Poker, Farmville, all of these games, beautiful products, and their success story lies just on the basis of their product, right? And today, doing hundreds of millions in monthly actives, right, which is a huge number. So I think one thing very important that teams need to realize is that your product is an ever evolving game, right? I mean, there cannot be a perfect product ever. So like, you need to keep adding features to it. Just for example, even for our fantasy games, we've tried to, over the years, we've tried to add more gaming variants, right? So from when we started off 3 years back, we were the unique ones to get bowling batting fantasies, which is a unique concept apart from your classic fantasy segment, right? And similarly, we went on to add more to it, from reverse fantasy, wizard fantasies, and just not within the cricket framework. We also added move to games like basketball and baseball, stuff like that, right? So product innovations, adding these features, giving your users something new every time is definitely something which will increase your stickiness, right? Another important aspect of this industry remains about the scalability, right? The kind of users your app can sustain, right? So we recently touched, we made our products scalable so that they can, probably we can consume about 1 billion actives at a time, but then still we feel that that's just one landmark, but a lot more to achieve on that front as well. And I think apart from that, probably the automation route, I would say, is a key, and your product has to be the one supportive of that. All that AI/ML route is probably the future of it, right? You can't be the ones who will be there to give your user journeys manually, right? It has to be your product has to provide good recommendation engines and stuff like that. And I believe if you all in all combine, do all of these activities with your product, it will help you stay ahead of the curve for sure.
Thanks, Varun. I'm going to reach out to Varun Mahana. A poker is a poker is a poker. How different can your poker be with somebody else's poker?
Well, Vishal, I think so. Varun mentioned about the product. So, product definitely is the king in our industry, right? That is where the users will spend all the time when they're engaging with your brand. So, product becomes a key differentiator. Though the game of poker is pretty standard worldwide. So, with respect to the game, you can't change much. But definitely, the user experience, the user interface is something which we constantly work to improve, to make it more user friendly at every level of the engagement with the user. So product becomes the first part. I'll talk about the softer aspects now when we come to talking about retention, right? Because that is one of the key levers of any online business. Customer acquisition, customer retention, and customer engagement are the three levers which I feel determine how well a business is doing and how sustainable a business is really. So the bottom line in the entire business is all about retention, and I would like to talk about the softer aspects of retention because that is very important when we are talking about how a business is growing, how a business is sustaining. So product becomes a very important cornerstone of the business for acquisition, for retention, for engagement, for all the levers. But I believe customer support becomes an equally important part for the retention bit. Our users, they are the kings. They have the choice. They can choose to go to any other platform. There is really no way to hold on to them apart from giving them a great customer experience. And that is what we pride ourselves in. We guys are I believe, the best customer support team in the business. That is the key interest which I always tell my team to follow whenever they are reaching out to the customers. How happy are our clients? What is their concern? What are their challenges which they are facing while playing on any platform? And then how can you solve it? Because see, we guys are all of us are operators. All of us like to solve problems for our consumers. So it's important to understand what they're facing. And I believe customer satisfaction then translates into high retention numbers as well. Those are the I believe, apart from the product, the softer aspects of your customer satisfaction, your customer support, your customer engagement, they translate into high retention numbers eventually. And those are very important things which you have to start building from day one in your organization. So we guys always like my only directive to my teams is that all the customers have to really be very happy with our platform. They shouldn't be facing any issues. If they're facing any issues, we should try and resolve that as quickly as possible, because profits can wait, but customers, they won't. So we have to engage with them. We have to provide them support. So I feel apart from a great product, a great customer experience goes into a long way in retaining the customers.
Thank you, Varun. I know I'm going to come back to you with the same question of acquisition and retention, not from a product perspective, but more from a marketing perspective. But before I do that, I want to, just pick Amit's brains on how innovative is his way of looking fantasy products. You're one of the youngest company, and you've been building great products. So, how innovative do you try to make yourself in your fantasy space, fantasy game space?
Uh, I like Vishal, like both Varuns mentioned, product is something that is very, very critical, and the offering and gameplay that you are going to offer to your consumers is again very important. There are guidelines that are set in place in terms of what is allowed and what is not allowed. So we keep that in mind always. But our prerogative always is to cater to sports fans and not to fantasy gaming users only. So like if you will see, we have three sections on our app. One is a predictions module where people can just come and predict. They might not be as involved in sports as a fantasy gamer would be, where he's okay to make a team of 11, but they are just casual gamers who would just want to just check if India will win or Australia will win today, and they would want to be gratified with that. Of course, you can't gratify them with cash right now in India, but they just like to be gratified with virtual currency, and then they redeem it elsewhere wherever they can. So we have that kind of an option where people can just predict and win. If you were to see last year, Zomato did this very powerful Zomato India Premier League, wherein they were giving cashbacks on correct predictions on every IPL game, right? We, like I said, we focus on sports fans and we don't focus on fantasy gamers only, because we feel there is a scale of sports fans that exists. One is the casual gamer, then there is the fantasy gamer, and then there is an evolved fantasy player which who does not even like the daily fantasy sports module. He or she feels that there's too much luck involved when I pick a team of 11 for this particular game. If I were to pick a team of 11 for the entire IPL, I would win because I know IPL better than the others, right? So we have that match club format also on our platform where you can pick a team for a longer duration, so that your skill comes into play slightly more than it comes in the DFS format, right? So like I said, we keep thinking, and these are just gameplay options where we differentiate ourselves in terms of what we offer. But apart from that, like it was mentioned previously, customer experience is very, very important. Like when we introduced a toggle button of playing and non-playing on our app. So like you would know, on fantasy gaming, whenever people are selecting their teams and the lineup out meaning when the toss has happened and the playing 11 is announced, very few apps have this feature where you can press a toggle button and all the non-playing players go away, right? We just felt it was a basic customer experience innovation that we were doing, not exactly innovation as well. We just felt it was a good feature to have, and we got a lot of positive reviews from our customers through that particular feature. So like I said, it's a very, very small thing, but the whole idea is that you must try and delight the customer wherever possible, because while and it, like Varun said, profits can wait. Eventually this customer experience will lead to profits as well, because if you were to look at the fantasy gaming world as well, if there are 10 crore users, most of the apps hover around 15 to 20% of paid users, right? And if you were to look at delighting these paid users, and these paid users play in a non mutually exclusive manner. It's not a mutually exclusive business where if I play on Dream 11, I can't play on Fantasy Akhada, right? That does not happen. If I make a team, in fact, people play on multiple platforms because it's not important how good your team is. It's important how better it is than the competition, than your opponent, right? So sometimes people eventually end up playing on 5 6 platforms for a game. If they have sufficient time to finalize their team, they end up playing on 5 6 platforms because they feel that यहाँ पे opponent अच्छा नहीं मिला तो यहाँ तो एक खराब opponent मिल जाएगा and I'll end up winning, right? So the whole idea is that you have to try and gain share of wallet of that user, because he's spending 100 rupees. He might divide it on 5 platforms, might put 80 rupees on the market leader and then put the remaining 20 on the balance 4. How do you try to get maximum out of that 100 is your game, right? And that's how small features, customer experience, customer support, like I don't know how many, I personally feel that when you say that there are 300 gaming apps and 180 odd fantasy apps, like I read often, the entry barrier to enter in this industry is so small that it's easy to launch an app, But the problem is, and the real meat is when you handle this, and when you manage scale for say for example a year and a half, and that's where most of these 180 players taper off. And right now, honestly, we are also in that journey where we are trying to climb the ladder. But the whole idea is that it's not important to enter the business, because it's very easy to. The entry barrier is very less here, unlike traditional industries where there's a lot of capex involved. That's not the case here, but the whole idea is that you should be able to sustain, and that happens only on the back of customer experience, both at the product level and at the softer sides. If your product can't sustain the scale, that's the end. And if your product can sustain the scale, but if you don't answer your customer queries, then that's the end as well. So both of them are very, very important.
So, Amit, you mentioned a very important point. You said that you incentivize customers with some virtual currencies as well, just to
Yeah.
make sure that they keep engaging with you. Does that really, is that innovation? Is that really helping you really, engage that guy and increase your stickiness?
Yeah, so we see a lot of people only playing predictions also on our app. So there are a lot of people who, and then it also helps. There are two ways we gratify them. One is we gratify them on Fantasy Akhada itself. So there are some casual gamers who've turned into fantasy players. So that has helped our business overall. And at the same time, we also on and off keep having third-party tie-ups wherein they can redeem those virtual currency coins for something outside the app. So that is also something that helps them engage with the app on and off, right? Because they feel that there is something that will come here. My cricket skill, because of my knowledge of the sport, I'm able to get gratification elsewhere as well. So like I'm saying, and like I said, when we talk about the long form match club format, when I said that we have a longer format, say for example on a weekend there are 4 games of IPL and you can make a team for those 4 games. So you don't get a lot of volume there, but you end up getting a lot of high value customers there. And eventually, for our bottom line and top line, and most fantasy operators would agree that yes, downloads and registrations are very important, but the high rollers are equally important, and in fact more important than anything else. So you end up getting a lot of such players there. So eventually that format is not leading to a lot of volume, but it gives you say 15 to 50 top high rollers. They eventually start playing the normal format as well, and then that helps you churn your business well. So like I'm saying, both the non-fantasy, say traditional fantasy formats that exist on Akhada, they serve their own purposes in terms of value and volume, and we feel that that it is helping us be in good stead when we take this next leap of growth that we are planning to.
Thanks, Amit. Thanks, Amit. That leads me to the next question set, which is more from a marketing perspective or a marketing lens. And I'm going to reach to Varun, Mahna. We spoke about customer acquisition, customer retention. Give me a perspective more from a marketing lens. You did tell me about from product side. I'm sure you're focused on one is use up with the existing customers, one is users, which is new users, and the third challenge is obviously how do you retain them back, and what sort of marketing elements really help you achieve all these three parameters, which are obviously much more important for you for your business. And when it comes to using any medium or any media to advertise and get your recruitments in place, what has been working for you? Is it just a digital advertising? Is it television and print advertising? What sort of marketing do you really look at? Varun,
Um,
Mana?
yeah.
Yeah.
So Vishal, it's a very, very open question, right? I can go on and on, and the episode might last for a couple of more hours, but I'll try and be concise. So, for a platform like ours, so we've been around for 3 years. We started with poker. Now we are adding more verticals to our business. So we've just launched Rummy. We are looking to come into fantasy and other games of skills. So marketing plays a very, very important role, right? Because you have to go out in the market and tell the consumers that, hey, this is our brand, this is what we stand for, this is what we are offering, and this is why you should come and try our platform, because these are the benefits you will get. This can be so we've tried a little bit on television, we've dabbled with radio, we've dabbled with print, but majority of my spend is going into digital for obvious reasons. Digital aid, there is a lot more accountability with the ads you're running on a digital platform, the kind of feedback you get on your ad, the clicks, the conversions, the other matrices which we tally. it makes my ROI calculation much more easier on a digital platform. So for Dangal, definitely most of my spend is allocated towards the digital domain. We guys, are also looking at a lot of influencer marketing recently, whereas we are looking at different popular faces coming on board and telling a brand story to their followers, their users. That makes a very good impact because I personally feel there is an immediate connect which is built because of users knowing the people who are advertising on our behalf. So definitely the new age verticals of marketing are really working well for us. Those are the places where you also feel a need to learn more and grow more, because when we started the expertise we had in our digital marketing team, it wasn't that high. But as we progressed, and I'm sure Varun would agree with me, because knowing his journey at Baazi, that is how you grow. You have to experiment, then you have to see what is working for your brand, then you have to see that what is really the output which we are getting. So we are spending a lot on digital platforms, we are spending a lot on our uh, on increasing the capability in house to be able to spend that kind of money and get the kind of returns we want. So it is all a question now of building a platform which is capable, self-sustaining. My retention strategy is also primarily on digital. So from acquisition to retention, we are also targeting our user retention from the marketing lens.
Okay, sorry. Go on.
So, in a nutshell, most of my spend strategies are around the digital space because the ROI calculation becomes much more easier. So, in a nutshell, that is how my marketing is planned around my acquisition and retention. Primarily.
Thanks, Varun. Varun, Ganjoo, would you say that digital marketing is a drip to your business?
Well, I
You
think
agree with Varun?
definitely yes. See, I feel that I mean, not to demean print or something, but for the new age thing, I think digital is the key. TV, while still, I would say that TV has to be given its own share of credit. When you have to go for a bigger brand awareness and recall as well. But I think for growing up brands, it's digital, remaining digital focused is the key. For the very sure reason that the kind of targeting that you get here and the analytics that you can do and the personalized manner in which you can target and talk to your customers is something that you can't get on any of these other channels, right? And again, depending on the type of industry where that phase is, right? So for example, for poker, it's a relatively newer segment in India, right? It's a very big sport in the West, right? But India, it would be probably 7-8 years old, not more, right? So right now, our focus remains on creating very educative sort of ecosystem. We are doing a lot more content driven marketing, where we are doing a lot of streams as well, building live streams of the game, and thereby encouraging the users to watch them and then learn the game as well. We've also built up a poker Baazi school segment separately, just to make sure that the new users that are coming in get that sort of knowledge base, that from where they can have that skill set added to them. Uh, Even for fantasy, I mean, it's more about cricket is like a religion in the country, so you don't really have to teach users. But then still, digital, I would say, remains a very good way to reach out to your users. If you also spoke about retaining the users, right, which is one of the major factors in this industry. So while I mean, it's for the recreational users, it's a sort of entertainment through all these games as well. But winning also remains a very key factor there, right? So what we did probably, I guess, 3 years back is we introduced a loyalty rewards system, which was not there in the skill gaming segment till then. It's called Baazi rewards, right? So through those rewards, people will earn some currency by playing any game, right? Not necessarily they win it. So, and then they can exchange those coins for some gadgets, rewards, and stuff. So, we've seen that the people who engage with Baazi rewards, and these rewards are placed across our fantasy, poker, rummy. There's about probably 20% more or higher retention, I would say, of the users, those who engage with the features like Baazi rewards, right? So I mean, all in all, yeah, all these features do add to the experience of the users and help them retain more.
Thanks, Varun. I want to move to Vaibhav, and Vaibhav, give me a perspective of how the other gaming companies have been, using your ad tech solutions to either get some acquisitions or whatever remarketing and retentions, and give me your perspective from the other side of this business.
Sure. See, a lot of, entry or, the starting or new age companies, not just specific to skill, but overall, first look at digital as a user acquisition platform, and somewhere television as a, branding or, sort of a reach platform. I think that once some bit of a maturity comes in, that also tends to change. So then you start looking at digital both from acquisition or, performance and branding as two separate ways. Uh, why is that happening is because, as Varun slightly mentioned, the ability to target, but more importantly, the skill of data or knowing the user. So once you know who you want to reach out to or the type of audiences and the type of messaging, then, then you look at digital very comprehensively. uh, while, if you have an ability
Got it.
to track, shouldn't always lead to at that instant conversion to user base. So what we've seen is when, when maturity comes, you look at digital much more comprehensively. Obviously there are funnels, there are, different stages of messaging and different layers of conversion, and that then becomes the, sort of real ROI for an advertiser. uh, yeah, I think
Got it.
that's where we will see most emerging industries also move to, or most players also move to.
Okay, in the interest of time, I might have to just sort of quickly try and do a sort of a wrap up. But before I, ask my last question and do a wrap up, I want a perspective coming in from Gaurav. Gaurav, marketing for you as a business was not required, but you are a good support system for brands to market, right? So while Vaibhav is given his perspective, what do you think about it? And I wanted to quickly wrap it up with your point of view.
Sure. So you're absolutely right. In our business, we do not spend any user acquisition money, and yet we've reached to about 40 million monthly active users. That's because we power gaming inside other products, and we are able to piggyback on their distribution. So I think the way for us to think about this entire scenario is, where is the money coming to Gamezop from, right? And on our platform, while our distribution strategy is free of cost, while we get to users free of cost, we still need to have a solid monetization engine to back all of it. So not only do we fetch ads from programmatic networks, etc., but we also have a direct ad sales team. We work with a lot of agencies, and we do a lot of customized campaigns for brands that are otherwise both digital and non-digital brands that might either want that may have performance or branding goals. So I think with technology, you really can make things a lot more transparent. And I'm sure there are a lot of spenders here. Varun again, they spoke about spending. I'm sure when they're also tracking their metrics, they seek a lot of transparency from the publishers that they're spending on. Right from the consumer journey, right from ensuring what percentage of the users are paid users and so on. And we are able to create a lot of these for those guys who choose to spend on us.
Thanks, Gaurav. Before I wrap up, I want a last question, and I want you all to answer in just one single sentence. Make it very short and crisp. But we have a great listenership happening on this panel currently, and there is, I'm assuming, quite a bit of a marketing fraternity as well present. What is it, that one message that you'd like to leave for marketing fraternity from a gaming perspective? What is it that they need to do right? What is it that they need to do perfect? So starts with Varun, Ganjoo, and then Varun, and then Gaurav, and let's finish it.
Yeah. So I think to the advertisers out there, I would say my message would be to be aware don't get lost, know what you want to convey to the users and if it is getting conveyed, because there's a lot of content happening out there. To the publishers, I would keep bringing up exciting inventories.
Uh,
Well said.
I think, Vishal, for any marketer, what is most important is to identify the ROI matrices they want to follow. Every dollar which you're spending on your marketing budget has to come with a return on the investment. So making sure you're not splurging, making sure you're making each dollar count is very important. And that is, I think, the key to a successful business model.
Thanks, Varun. Amit?
Yeah, I personally feel to all the marketers out there, I think you must just decide on what you want to achieve. It might be quantitative as well as qualitative, like someone just mentioned on the panel that brand awareness might also be a metric sometimes. So just decide on your metrics before you finalize a plan, and just see if your campaign delivers on that. It's pretty basic and pretty simple. No, nothing out of the box. Probably you don't need to reinvent the wheel all the time.
Thanks, Amit. Gaurav?
Yeah, so I think Vishal, you said at some point that a poker is a poker is a poker, right? So what really can you do differently? So I do feel the same way too. That eventually products do tend to become similar. There are a few things that all the products need to get right, which all the smart products are going to get right, right? So what do you really need to have to climb the ladder from that point in time? I think distribution is the centerpiece of the jigsaw puzzle. If companies are to keep that in mind, and if they're trying to like really scale for growth, try and keep the distribution costs as low as possible, so that experimentation becomes easier and like life becomes a whole lot easier.
Thank you, Gaurav. Vaibhav?
Yeah, I will say, to all the marketers and advertisers, don't typecast gaming into one set of audience. There is a very large or a homogeneous split. The world is moving towards, audience buying, and you need to see that today, if gaming is such a large vertical where people are in a, much more positive frame of mind, that should be your, go-to medium, and use all the technology to reach to the right audience.
Thank you very much, and thank you to all my lovely panelists. On that note, I'm going to do a quick wrap up. I think the jury is out. We've all heard that gaming as an industry is still at the tip of the iceberg. COVID has really led to a massive growth, and today a lot more consumers have actually got onto gaming and a booster. We've also heard about customer experience, how important it is, and how do you really engage with your own customers. Acquisitions, retentions, they become very priority, and marketing obviously will remain a drip to your business. So, folks, keep marketing, keep spending. I think that's also one of the key things, and ROI is really important. On that note, thank you very much, both the Varuns, Amit, Vaibhav, Gaurav. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vishal, for conducting this. Thank you.
Thank you, Vishal.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. A big thank you to all our panelists, and a special thank you to Mr. Chinchankar for moderating the session brilliantly. Thank you so much, sir.